Well, good evening and welcome. We are so glad that you are here. In case you're wondering if you're at the right place, this is the ZoeCare 2021 fundraising banquet. Yeah, we're at the right place. The night has finally arrived and your dinner and program starts right now. My name is Pastor Brett Lachelle. I have the privilege of being your MC this evening. So again, we are so glad that you're here. And many of you have come before. How many people have been here before? Yeah, okay. Well, my guess is that a lot of us are here for really the same thing. You are here because you believe that all human life is sacred. Am I right? And being sacred, it should be protected. Amen? Tell me if you are not familiar with these words. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And you and I believe those rights belong to everybody, including the unborn. And because the unborn cannot speak for themselves or defend themselves, we need to speak for them. And so that's a part of why we are here. We are also here because we believe those outside the womb also deserve grace and dignity. There are young ladies, young couples who are not educated in the fullness of life that resides inside the womb. Many of them are young, many of them are scared, many of them need help and the counsel of someone who cares not just for the baby, and they do, but they care for the mother and the father and the uncertainty that surrounds them and the crisis that is in their mind. And that is why we are here. We are here to support the good people at ZoeCare. ZoeCare cares for the life of the unborn, and it cares for the lives of all the family around that child. And for that reason, we stand with our friends at ZoeCare. ZoeCare is a real and tangible extension of what we are about during the week and 365. And so to begin our program, I would like to invite your favorite and mine, Sean Marie from 99.1, the one, that she might open our time this evening in prayer. Welcome, Sean Marie.
Thank you so much. Would you bow your heads and your hearts with me? Our Heavenly Father, Creator, Giver, and Keeper of life, we acknowledge that it is you who have brought us through a season of confusion and crisis. And even in the midst of loss and uncertainty, we know, like the song we sing, that from life's first cry to final breath, Jesus commands my destiny. Your plans and purposes will be fulfilled in the mission field of the Gallatin Valley and beyond. We come together this evening to celebrate every life that has been saved, cherished, and transformed by your love and your grace. We ask that you would continue to bless ZoeCare, that Chris, Cindy, Kendall, Shar, Wendy, Janessa, Mike, Deanne, every nurse, the medical team, volunteers, and board members. Bless the labor of their hands and their hearts. Give them wisdom and understanding. Tonight, we as a community of faith, we come alongside them to lift up their arms. Lord, encourage them and strengthen them, mind, body, and soul, so they can continue saving the lives of preborn babies and promoting the God kind of life for women and men that walk through the doors of ZoeCare. Thank you for bringing Amy Ford here tonight to encourage us to live out your grace in practical ways to young moms and their babies. For you said, if you've ministered to the least of these in my name, you've ministered to me. We are so blessed, dear God, and that is only because of your hand of protection and provision. We gladly give to the work and mission of ZoeCare. Multiply every gift and bless every act of generosity in time, talent, and treasure. We now ask that you bless the food to our bodies, us to your service, the hands that prepared this meal, and those serving it to us. Thank you, Father, for your faithfulness and the promise that your goodness and mercy are with us, and they will follow us all the days of our lives. In the name of Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Well, I believe we have some soup that's like on its way out. So servers, if that's you, we invite you to bring out the soup. And while you're enjoying your soup and knowing that dinner is just right behind by a few minutes, as you're eating, you're going to notice a couple of really cute kids running around. Now, I see them. They're off in this corner. And, they're dressed so nice. And you can distinguish these two cute kids from maybe other cute kids because we have a balloon, okay? So don't confuse the cute kids with the balloon and the cute kids without the balloon. But these cute kids are going to be running around, going from table to table, coming to see you. And we've made them cute on purpose so that we can use no shame. We're trying to manipulate your emotions. They are going to be selling you raffle tickets. And so let me just tell you about them. Not the cute kids, Mom can do that, but the raffle tickets. So raffle tickets are $15 each, 2 for $25. The winner will be picked out of a hat or a basket or whatever at the end of the night by one of those cute kids. So the opportunity to purchase a raffle ticket will end at the end of tonight's auction, so don't miss out by waiting too late. So you're probably asking, well, what are we raffling? Great question. Let me tell you, if you are the lucky winner, you get to choose one of 3 options. So one of 3 options. The first option, a Yellowstone snow coach excursion, including 2 nights and lodging for 2 people. And I say, whoa, I want to win that. Sounds romantic, 2 people off in the snow coach, night. That'll be a good one. You'll want to get that one. But here's the next one. This is for the adventurous types. This is a new one if you've been here before. It's a skydiving adventure. I know the other one. There it is. The skydiving adventure for 2 people. Now I know what you're thinking, single guy. Oh, I can go twice. No, you can't go twice. You need to get a friend and then go together, okay? So this is a 2 people thing. And I was just curious, so I looked up the word adventure, just curious. And it says something unusual and exciting. So like, duh. But then it said, typically a hazardous experience. They nailed it on this one. Okay, this is not for the faint of heart. Okay, skydiving, the second option. The third option, another adventure. This time it's called zip and dip, zip lining, and whitewater rafting for 4 people, not 2, but 4. All this is provided by Montana Whitewater near the Storm Castle exit there on the Gallatin River. And I say, wow, lots of fun, lots of great options. So again, you can purchase your raffle ticket from these cute kids with the balloon. Where is it? Oh, they're off in that corner. Okay, they're going to be coming to your table while you're eating your dinner. Or if you're like, no, I want my raffle ticket now, you can go back to that far table where there's 2 balloons, and you can purchase one there as well. That far table will be another place you'll go later on in the evening. All right, so while I'm up here, let me just draw your attention to a slideshow that you get to enjoy while enjoying the soup that I believe is being served to you now. And the reason I know that you'll like what's on the slideshow is because what you're going to see is life. Life is indeed a beautiful choice, and you get to see pictures of life. These are our very own ZoeCare babies that are alive and well today because of people just like you and the work that you have done and the good work of ZoeCare. So I know that you will enjoy seeing them. And I believe just after that, there's another, not a slideshow, but like a video talking about how you can be involved as well. So please enjoy your dinner. I will come back about 7:15 and lead you on to the next event. Enjoy.
Unplanned pregnancy can be scary and stressful. ZoeCare's mentoring programs, Mom to Mom and Being Dad, train and facilitate mentors who come alongside women and men to empower them to thrive in their new role as parents.
I was really scared. So when I sat down and I talked to Mike was really, he really reminded me of my father. The comfort of talking to someone who knows and who understands and who is a father was actually great.
Mentors learn how to actively listen and how to ask open-ended questions to draw them out. They build a very trusting relationship, and that's what builds the hope.
One of the most exciting things that ZoeCare is doing is practically fighting for life on the front lines, really doing the work. That's such a beautiful thing.
Please contact ZoeCare to become a mentor and to share the love of Jesus with them as they begin their parenting journey. Call 406-586-9444, email community@gotozoe.org, or find us on the web at www.friendsofzoecare.org.
So at this time, we'd like you to turn your attention once again to the screens, where we'd like to show you another way that you can be involved in saving lives. And then we're going to have ZoeCare's Executive Director, Chris Grinnell, come up and share with us. So we're going to show the Safe Harbor video.
Abortion. It's in the news and on many politicians' lips, especially during an election year. Every year in the United States, abortion claims about 850,000 human lives not yet born, lives that are precious in God's eyes. You may be surprised to know that women from Christian churches account for 43% of that number, approximately 365,000. Abortion is not something happening out there. It's happening here, in our church. So what should we do? What can we do? What will you do? Vote? Picket the courthouse? Write something bold on social media? You could, but the pressures that women feel and that are causing them to choose abortion are not typically influenced by your vote, your action at the courthouse, or your social media posts. Abortion is not an issue that's going to be solved in Washington, D.C. It needs to be solved here, in our community, with love and grace to our sisters struggling with these pressures. So what if you could be a part of the solution? Safe Harbor is ZoeCare's initiative for the local church to provide the strategic solutions women facing unplanned pregnancies need. It's not another program, it's a culture shift. Are you ready to make a real difference in the lives of the preborn? Get involved today. For more information, text your name now to 406-282-0503. The solution to abortion is the church.
Always slightly taller than everybody else. Hi, I'm Chris Grinnell. I'm the Executive Director of ZoeCare. And did you catch that number? I want you to write it down or text it to that, text your name to that number, and I'm going to get back to that in a few minutes as far as what we're doing with that. So good evening. Let me start by saying it is such an honor to have you all as our support team. Really, we do some of the work in the clinic in ZoeCare, but really it's you guys that make it possible. We really are your extension, and so I just want to thank you so much for that. I don't know if you saw the slides that were playing beforehand, but we threw up a bunch of numbers, so the 50 or so lives that were directly saved from abortion this year. So that is amazing. What it turned out to be is about 92% survival rate. So of everybody that came into ZoeCare, about 92% of them chose life. Yeah, that is something we can all celebrate, and that's all of our victory. But I think God is leading us to something greater. And I want to share that with you just for a minute, because I know that you're here to see somebody else. So ZoeCare really started on a slightly different journey this year. At the beginning of the year, we formed what we call the ZoeCare Vision Team. And we began looking at more of the bigger picture. What do we want to accomplish in the Valley? What is God calling us to? How do we want to be a part of the solution? And so the first meeting that we met, back in January, I think it was, we threw out this question: what would it take to stop abortion in Southwest Montana? So have you guys thought about that before? Considered what we would have to do to make that happen? Well, as the vision team talked more and more about it, we got more and more excited. And before that meeting was over, we came up with 3 things that needed to be addressed. The first one was we needed a better pathway to get our patients to the resources they needed. In other words, how do we meet their needs? How do we meet the needs that are not being met and forcing them to abort their child? Secondly, we need a better strategy for reaching the high school. That's a weak spot of ours. And thirdly, we needed to address abortion in the church. So we began our efforts with the last one, with addressing abortion in the church. You're probably all familiar with Jesus' instruction that we must first remove the plank from our eye before we can remove the speck from our neighbor's. And that's really what we feel convicted needs to happen. You saw in the video that about 43% of all abortions in this country each year are performed on women that regularly attend a Christian church. So that means that they attend a church service twice a month. So for a lot of us, that's what we do. So that means in this room tonight, there most certainly are those who have suffered through an abortion. And it is, if there's one thing I can convey to you guys about the pain of abortion, of course, I've never experienced it being a man, but it is not something that our patients do lightly. It is a painful, stressful, kind of a last resort kind of a thing for most people. And we need to really address this from a place of grace. And so that's kind of where we're coming from this, because we know a lot of our sisters are suffering from this. So what does that look like? What do we do to address abortion in the church? So I firmly believe that God wants to bring that 43% down to 0. And I think we can all kind of get behind that. I mean, just think, if we could eliminate 365,000 deaths each year, I mean, is that something we shouldn't all get behind? I mean, and just think, if you could do that without passing a single law or any kind of argument with your friends on Facebook. I mean, we would just take care of it without doing any of that stuff. So here's the first step that ZoeCare has done. This is what we have done first. We've developed a 2-hour training for people in the church. And this is a training for everybody. We think everybody could benefit. It goes over a lot of the background, what's happening today, and what the solutions are. Because there are solutions. And so I want to strongly encourage everybody to take this training. The number on the screen that you saw in the video, that if you text your name to that number, that's telling us, I'm interested to learn more about this training, when and where, and how can I get involved. So let me be honest here. ZoeCare doesn't have the manpower or the reach to stop abortion in southwest Montana. We just don't. With the Lord's blessing and working through us, we can do great work, if I do say so myself. And we can see tremendous victory. But we just can't reach the whole southwest Montana. But you know who can? The church has the manpower and the reach. And we want to equip the church to extend ZoeCare's ministry throughout southwest Montana, to actually bite into that 43% that we see. So it doesn't matter who you are. If there's one thing that you get away from my few minutes up here tonight, is that you have a role to play. You have something that you can contribute to stopping these 365,000 deaths each year. And it doesn't matter how rich you are, it doesn't matter your age, your sex, it doesn't matter your background, what you've been through. Everybody can do something. And that's the message we really want to get out tonight. If you keep up with some of our e-news, if you get our monthly e-newsletter in your email, and I encourage everyone to sign up if you haven't. But for those of you who may be paying attention, you may have noticed that we're doing more and more things in the community. So we started a MOPS group, Mothers of Preschoolers, this spring. So we have that going to Summit Church. We're trying to funnel our patients who have kids into the church. And then, of course, we started an Embrace Grace group at Abundant Life. And this fall, we are putting the final touches on something we're calling Meals for Moms, which is basically the church providing meals for our patients when they come home from the hospital with their newborn. I mean, isn't that cool? I mean, these are just ways that we can start, as Amy says in her book, to be pro-love, to just wrap Christian love around these women who otherwise would be really struggling. So you will have ample time to get involved in these things, and I encourage you to do that, because the church, like I said, has a critical role to play in making a difference in these women's lives and in the lives of their unborn children. So a final encouragement I'm gonna give you before I get off the stage is this Embrace Grace group we had at Abundant Life this spring. We had one of our patients go. We had one, but Abundant Life loved her well, and she, before her time with them was over, she had given her life to Christ and was baptized. Yeah, so that's what the church does. We point people to Christ, and that's what our patients need more than anything. And that's how we can love on them and support them, provide what their preborn kids need. There's been a lot of bad news in the last couple of years, admittedly. But I hope that you don't miss out on what God is doing in this valley. I hope that you are inspired by the good news, by the good stuff that's happening. Life is winning. We are winning. Jesus is winning. And I always want to encourage you all, let's just get on board with what God's doing, because he's doing some great stuff in this valley. And I think that together we can really make a significant difference in the lives of the preborn and their mothers and their dads. And we can help bring that 43% down. I mean, we in this room, we can do that. it's not just ZoeCare. It's not just the 10 or 12 employees that we have at ZoeCare. It's all of us working together. We can do this. So with that, I'm going to introduce Amy Ford. I am thrilled to have Amy Ford here. Amy is the co-founder and president of Embrace Grace, a nonprofit that has equipped over 700 churches across the U.S. and overseas to open their doors and hearts to women with unexpected pregnancies. She is the living proof of the power of the body of Christ to bring transformation in the lives of single moms. Her latest book, which is on your table, is Help Her Be Brave, Discovering Your Place in the Pro-Life Movement, a book rich with personal stories and examples of what each of us can do to help us get across that finish line. I think you're going to be inspired, and I think you're going to love what she has to say tonight. So please join me in welcoming Amy Ford.
Hey guys. Okay, so I'm from Texas, and I feel like y'all look more Texas than Texas people look. Like y'all all have your formals and cowboy boots, and I love it. It's amazing. Me and my assistant came, and it's like 90 in Texas today. So we brought like our big giant coats, and Wendy, when she picked us up, she had like a sleeveless shirt on, and we're like, we're ready. And she's like, are y'all okay? We were kind of freaking out. We thought it is cold. It's cold for us, but it's so pretty. When we first got here this morning, it was pretty overcast. So then when we came out to come here, it was beautiful, and we could see the mountains. We're from Texas, Dallas-Fort Worth area, so it's pretty flat there. So it's exciting to be here. I'm super excited. So I'm taking my normal message to a way shorter message because you guys were really into the auction stuff, which is pretty awesome. All for a good cause. Okay, so I'm going to jump into my story. Basically, I had an unplanned pregnancy when I was 19. I was terrified to tell my parents. I thought my life was over. When you're in kind of a crisis moment, the enemy lies to you and tells you like the worst case scenarios that could possibly happen, and that was what was happening. So I thought my dreams were over, everything, and the father of the baby felt the same way. So we actually went and we scheduled the abortion appointment, went and paid for it. And I had really like stuffed down all my feelings and emotions and kind of went in robot mode of like, I can just need to get through this, and I'll deal with the consequences of a broken heart later. So I went into the room, and I ended up hyperventilating and passing out in the abortion room. And when I came to, the nurses were fanning me. They were trying to give me a drink of water, and I just was bawling hysterically. It all erupted in that place. And the nurse said, "You're too emotionally distraught to make this decision today. You can come back another day, but today you're not getting an abortion." And so I went back out in the waiting room, told the father of the baby, we're still pregnant. He saw my face was like totally swollen from crying so much, and I was like, we're still pregnant. And we just kind of decided in that moment, okay, like we're going to figure it out. If we're going to be homeless, all these crazy things that we thought was going to happen, we'll figure it out. So we went and told our parents, and it wasn't as bad as we thought it would be. They were definitely disappointed in the timing of it, but they were pretty supportive. And me and the father of the baby had been together all through high school. We knew we wanted to get married someday, so we decided to get married. And the man that had led my husband to the Lord, we asked him if he would marry us. And it was when I was 16 weeks pregnant. And he told us, "No, I'm sorry. I can't marry you because you've sinned. And so I will not bless this marriage." And we were like, oh my goodness, we are such horrible people. We can't even get married, and be blessed in the eyes of God. And we ended up finding someone else that would marry us, but it definitely was like a day of like shame, like a scarlet letter. We had a beautiful wedding, but it was just a hard day. And then we try to go back to church, but it's like the elephant in the room, and people don't know whether to say congratulations or I'm sorry. So they don't say anything, and you feel completely alone in a crowd of people. And I'm super extrovert. I have a lot of friends. And so it's super obvious when all of a sudden people aren't really talking to you anymore. They kind of take the long way around. So we kind of just stopped going for a while. But one thing that's really cool is that pastor that wouldn't marry us, he called my husband 2 years later and he asked for forgiveness. He said that he felt like it was his worst mistake in pastoring history that he had ever made. He said, will you please forgive me? And my husband loves this man. I mean, he had led him to the Lord, really discipled him when he was younger, when his family went through a hard time. And so my husband was like, yes, I forgive you. You know, I've missed you and all of that. And they're now still to this day such great friends. And I ended up having a son named Jess. He's 22. He just got married last summer. He graduated from Oral Roberts University, majored in theology. Now he's getting his master's. And he actually works in the pro-life movement for Choose Life Marketing. And a lot of times we speak together. We spoke together last week, I think in Ohio, and we speak together next week in Maine. So we get to do this together, and he tells his perspective of the story, which is amazing in itself. So I love, like, he has such a passion for life and such a passion for the Lord. And he said that he was an overcomer before he was ever even born, and that Satan had a plan to take him out, but he's here and he's going to use his story to change the world. I love it. He's powerful. But whenever Jess was 16, that pastor that wouldn't marry us, he asked me to come speak at his church. And I'm in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and this pastor has a church in Austin, so that's like 3 hours away. And he was very open with his congregation before I had gotten there about what he had done years before. He told him he had a religious spirit, a Pharisee heart. This is what I did a long time ago. And but now there's Embrace Grace, this ministry that she started. And so I came and I did my pro-love message that I usually do as Mother's Day. And so after I was done, he asked me to come back on the platform, and he asked my son Jess to come on the platform. And he said, Amy, years ago I asked your husband for forgiveness, but I never really asked you. Will you forgive me for what I did 16 years ago? I was like, yes, of course, I forgave you a long time ago. Like, I don't even think about it anymore unless it's just, you know, thinking about the goodness of God. And well, then he looked at my son, 16, in front of the whole church. And he said, will you forgive me for planting seeds of rejection in your heart before you were ever even born? And while you were in your mother's womb, I rejected you. Will you forgive me? And my son, 16, in front of the whole church says, I forgive you. And it was such a powerful moment in that room. Like, you could feel church wounds being lifted. The fact that the pastor would humble himself in front of the whole church like that is just amazing. And it was a big healing moment, even for my son Jess, and for our family, and for every person that was in the room. It was awesome. And, you know, going through all of that has really made me understand the power that the church has in healing, in encouragement. And I think about how I went to church my entire life growing up. I never missed a Sunday. But yet when I found myself with an unplanned pregnancy, the church was the last place I wanted to go to for help, prayer, guidance, wisdom, advice. Like, that wasn't even on my radar to go to. But what if the church was one of the first places a girl ran to in that situation instead of the last because of shame and guilt? What if we made the church a safe place for her to ask, to get the support that she needs? I love Tony Evans, who's one of my favorite pastors. He says the pregnancy centers are the first response team and the church is the hospital. That's such a powerful statement, because if we can link arms, the church and the pregnancy center, we can really make a huge impact on the world. And sometimes we get fixated on what a church is. You know, we think of the building of a church, you know, where we're in right now. But the church is a people. It's us, and we represent Jesus everywhere we go. And a lot of times when I invite girls to church, you know, that are pregnant, I'm always looking for pregnant bellies, and I have gotten myself in trouble sometimes by thinking they were and they weren't, but I've figured out how to get around that. If anybody ever needs advice, I'll let you know. But I've invited them, but they always feel like, wait, what? You want me to go to a church? And do you understand? I'm not married and I'm pregnant. They always think there's strings attached, you know, something's going on. But I hate it that the unchurched think that the church is about behavior modification, when really the church should be about a heart transformation. Because that's what the church is. It's not our job to fix people. It's our job to love people and to create a space for the Holy Spirit to move and transform our hearts. And God is moving all across the nation. We're seeing the church being a healing place. And like what Chris said earlier, we use the word pro-love a lot, because pro-life is a stance. And a lot of times it's even a political word, but pro-love is an action. And it's God's kindness that leads us to repentance. It's his goodness that draws us to his side. And whenever these women feel the goodness and the kindness of the pregnancy centers or the church, it changes everything. It helps them dream again. It helps them believe in themselves. And I love, like at ZoeCare, we went and looked at it today. It's totally amazing. They're already outgrowing their space, by the way. You could just feel the Holy Spirit in there. You could feel the love. It felt homey, but yet it felt professional. And everyone there seemed like they love their job. They love what they do, and they're there because they're passionate about being on the front lines and helping these women be empowered to choose life, whatever that looks like, helping her get back on the feet. And all these programs that they're doing is just totally awesome. It's amazing. It's a great, we need pregnancy centers in all of our communities to thrive. And this is your pregnancy center. This is your town. This is your community. And so it's important for you to help them keep their doors open and for them not to have to worry about just how they're going to pay their mortgage, or if they're renting. I didn't ask them that, but whatever it is that wherever they are right now, they should be able to just focus fully on the girls and on the moms and helping them thrive. They are speaking life into someone where they're hearing for the first time, you can do this. You're going to be a great mom. And our words are powerful. We had a girl one time that had an unplanned pregnancy. Her dad was a mess, and he told her she needs to have an abortion. And she was so scared, she didn't know who to talk to, and she works at a UPS store. And so right before she was going into work, she's like, God, if you can hear me, I need to know that you are out there and that I just don't know who to talk to. So if you could bring me someone to the desk, to the UPS desk today that has a box with a label on it that says the word church, then I'll know it's a safe person for me to talk to, because I don't really know who else to talk to. So she goes in and she works her shift, and right before closing, here comes a guy with a box and it has the word church on the label. And she's like, oh my gosh, do you work at a church? And he's like, no, I have a company that makes websites for churches. And she's like, oh, okay. And he could see the disappointment in her face, and he was like, well, I go to church. And she's like, you do? And that was it. She started bawling, and she told him everything. My dad said I'll be a horrible mom. I don't really know what to do. And so he was like, I know this guy, he's the dad of 4 boys. He's just like, I don't know what's happening right now. I'm just trying to ship a package. But he got her information. He's like, I'll have my wife call you. I feel like our church has something. And he said some encouraging words to her, and then he went on his way. She got plugged into an Embrace Grace group, which Embrace Grace, what I'm the president of, is that we have support groups like at Abundant Life that's here in Bozeman for women with unexpected pregnancies in churches all over the nation. And so we give them all the curriculum, the training, everything to be able to host these groups where they're discipled, they're loved on, and they meet other girls going through the same thing that they are. So we work closely with the pregnancy centers. So she was in the group. It was the 3rd class, so she was kind of the new girl. She told all the girls about the guy at the UPS store. And I'll never forget what she said, because it was life-changing for me. She said, that guy at the UPS, or she said, my dad thinks I'll be a horrible mom, but that guy at the UPS store said he thought I would be a good mom. And I was sitting there processing what she said. It was a perfect stranger that she most likely would never meet again, said something that probably he didn't even think twice about, that he was like, well, I think you'll be a good mom. And that was literally all she had to hold on to. That someone in the world, even though he was a perfect stranger, believed in her and believed that she could do it. And I bet for every one of you in here, when you were growing up or when you went through hard times, the biggest impact wasn't about who you believed in as a person. It was about who believed in you. That is what made the biggest impact, and that's what ZoeCares is doing. They are believing in every single client, every single woman, every single dad that comes in their doors. They believe in them, and they tell them they can do it, and it's like they hold on to that. And I love even the word Zoe. It's super close to me. One time, do y'all have Sonics here? The rest, there's no Sonics. Okay, well, if you haven't been to Sonic, it's like a little car hop type place, and you can swipe your card. And we've had Embrace Grace girls work at Sonic, and they have complained that people don't tip, because apparently if you ever do go to a Sonic outside of this town, you're supposed to tip people. but they don't have a tip line. So if you pay with credit card, like you basically have to have cash to tip. And I hardly ever have cash, so I don't go. But they, you know, it's Texas, it's hot, and it's happy hour with the slushies. And I got all the kids. I got 4 kids now in the car. And so I went one day and I thought I had cash, and I hit the button. I placed my order, and then I was digging in my purse and realized I didn't have any cash. And so when the girl came out, she's giving me all the slushies. I said, I am so sorry. You know, I paid with credit card for the food, but I don't have any cash for a tip. I said, I'll go to the ATM machine and go get some cash, and I'll come back and I'll bring it to you. And she's like, no, you don't have to do that, but if you want to, you can. I was like, yes, I'll do it. So I go and I get some cash, and I come back. I was like, what's your name? And she said, my name's Zoe. And I said, oh my goodness, I love that name. And I said, when I was pregnant with my 4th, which he was about 1 at the time, I said, before I knew he was a boy, Zoe was the name I picked. And I did a lot of research on it. Did you know that Zoe means life? But it doesn't mean like just a survival kind of life. Like the way the Greek translation, it's like the heavenly realm of life. Like the John 10:10, the John 3:16. It is like heaven on earth, like a paradise type of life, the abundant life that God has called us to. Did you know that? And she's like holding, some like drinks and stuff. And she's like, no, I didn't know that. But she's like, so you have a baby? And I was like, well, he's kind of a big baby. He's like 1 now. And she said, I just found out I'm pregnant, and me and my boyfriend are super nervous. Do you have any advice for me? I'm like, what? God, you are amazing. And so I get her information. I get her connected to a pregnancy center. I get her connected to an Embrace Grace group. She ended up having a boy. So she got like all my little boys' hand-me-downs. I got to be at her wedding. I got to be at her birth. Her husband worked for my husband for a while. Her husband is a part of our Embrace Legacy, our dad's curriculum, sharing his testimony. I get to do life with this girl named Zoe that changed my life. And it was so close that I just thought of her as a robot or a transaction or just someone that's serving you, but you don't really even know, that there's a real person that's like wondering, God, do you see me? And they're everywhere. And a lot of times we're too busy to even notice. I hear girls all the time say, I was going to get an abortion, and I told God, I won't do this if you give me a sign I'm not supposed to do this, because I don't see how physically I am able to have this baby, because everything is against me right now. So you better give me a sign if you don't want to do it. And guys, a lot of times we are the sign. But we have to allow the Holy Spirit to work in and through us. We have to be listening to when just even asking someone's name is so important, and treating people like they are real people. And that is what ZoeCare is doing. They are on the front lines, and every single person that walks in their door is the most important person in the room. And those girls feel it, and they know it when they come in. It's beautiful to see. And it's super important to have this in Bozeman, because abortion is readily available. You can go and have an abortion very easily. Now you can even get them online through the mail, abortion pills. So you can have an abortion in your home, in your bathroom. It's really sad the way the whole system is set up. So having something like ZoeCare is so important, to have that in your community, so they can go and they can get their sonogram, they can hear the heartbeat, they can have life poured into them. They can know the resources that are out there in the community. They have a goal tonight of raising $200,000. And I believe that there's probably one person in the room that could probably write a check for the whole thing. And maybe God's stirring your heart to do that. And I can't think of a better cause to give something to that is actually saving lives. The little Weston boy that was up here, and he was doing the raffle tickets, he came up to me. He's like, you're really pretty. Do you want to save a baby? That's good, guys. That's real good. But that's what it boils down to. Y'all look real pretty. Do y'all want to save a baby? Do you want to empower a mom tonight? Because that's what we're here for. It's not by accident that you're here. It's not coincidence. Maybe you were invited by a friend. Maybe you've heard of this, and maybe God is stirring your heart. Right now, politically, it's a mess. They're trying to pass full-term abortions in every state, which already I think it's in 12 or 13 states. Guys, it's love. Love is the answer. Love is our secret weapon. because it's God's kindness that leads us to repentance. And I want to challenge every single one of you. You may have come with your spouse, and on the way in, maybe y'all had already pre-discussed what you were going to give tonight. And I just want to challenge you to really think through, is that something that you felt like God told you that you're supposed to give, or was it just something that maybe that's what you gave last year or what you normally give? Because this is like an Esther moment, I believe, for all of us. Like, this is warring on behalf of a people that, like my son Jess, who almost wasn't here. He has led so many kids to the Lord. I can't even imagine him not being on earth. And there's people like this everywhere that just need to know that someone supports them, that they can do it, like what Zoe cares. So I just want to challenge you to, even with your spouse tonight, before we close, to be maybe praying again and thinking through what you can give tonight. Because I believe we need to give an extravagant, I call them love bombs, one-time gift tonight. But then also, on top of that, to commit monthly, because I lead my own nonprofit myself, and monthly giving is huge. To be able to know and plan, to know that's like the stuff that you know what's coming in every single month. You don't have to second guess, are we going to be able to do this or that? Because it's like the bread and butter. It's coming every single month, and it helps be able to plan for their future. And so if you, and even whatever, if you have to sacrifice a Starbucks, if you have to sacrifice going out to eat once a month, think about what you can do, because what you're sowing into actually is saving lives. And if you and your spouse do pray together tonight at your table, or talk again about what you want to give, I always say that the one that has the higher number is usually the one that hears the Lord a little more clearer. So go with that number. It's very important. Because the way we show the Lord obedience, it says in Scripture, the way God receives the way God receives love from us is through obedience. That's how He measures our love. Did we obey? So listen to what the Holy Spirit is speaking to you tonight on how you can give and what you want to give, because I believe they can exceed $200,000, and they need this. They run lean and mean. They are totally exploding out of their building. And they've even had to turn in their waiting room because of COVID and everything, but really they've just outgrown the space anyway. Their waiting room is a little bit more of now like a mentoring room. And so they've outgrown. There could be someone here that's like, I have a building that's half open and I would love to gift them a place that they can go to. And I don't even know what when their rent is up, or even if they rent. I don't know what that situation is, but you can talk to Chris if God's leading you to put something on your heart that you want to donate a building or donate space in a building that you own. That would be huge, because they really are, exploding out of that. And they have been good financial stewards of all the money that has come in. They are wanting to save lives with every single resource, the love that they show. It's just completely beautiful the way they do it. And in closing, I just want to say, guys, we are a family. There was a girl one time that had an unplanned pregnancy, and she was a pastor's daughter, and she had ran from her dad and all this stuff, got pregnant by a guy that ended up in jail. And when she decided to come back home, she asked for forgiveness. And she said, she had a little girl, and she said, Dad, I want to dedicate my baby at church tonight. And he said, okay. And the way they do it is they'll have one family stand up, and they'll say, is there anyone here that represents this family and her baby? Will you please stand? And they'll pray a prayer, and then they go to the next family and the next family and the next family. Well, then they get to his daughter and her baby, and the pastor said, is there anyone here that represents this woman and her child? Will you please stand up? And something amazing happened. The whole church stood up. Guys, that is church. We don't kick each other when we're down. We pick each other up when we fall. And we say, we're in this with you. And we can ensure that no single mom walks alone. We can't fix all their problems, but we can point them to the one that does. And that is what ZoeCares is doing. Tonight is important. It is a night in the kingdom that will forever be changed because of your extravagant generosity tonight. So there's a table host usually, or if you don't have a table host, just grab the little white envelope that's on your table right now. Inside, pass it around, pull these pledge cards out inside the envelope and pass them around to everyone at the table. And we're going to have a song play for just a few minutes before we close in prayer. But just take a look at it. On the back, you'll be able able to see the monthly gift that you'll be able to give to ZoeCare, and then also the one-time gift to ZoeCare tonight. Like I said, let's make an extravagant love bomb tonight that's going to blow them away so they can reach their $200,000. But then let's also make a monthly commitment that will change the trajectory of their dreams and goals. I love they have a vision team. How amazing is that? And some of these visions and dreams that God, they're not dreaming up, but God is dreaming down, that they are able to actually do these things that are going to help save lives and help the church be the church, and to enhance the pro-life and pro-love movement. We all have a place to serve in the movement. Every single one of us. Even my husband, he's an insurance agent. He's like, what do? I don't know. I'm a guy, you know. He's amazing at finances. He goes and helps a single mom with her finances and shows her how to do a checkbook. And everybody has something. Take a single mom's trash out. Help her with her GED. Help her get a resume going. Serve at the pregnancy center. Volunteer at the pregnancy center, donate things. We all have something. Strengths, gifts, and talents that God placed in our hearts and in our life, not for our own benefit, but to do the good works that God's called us to do. And he loves these moms. He loves them so much. And so let's join in with what God's doing in ZoeCare. I've heard miracle stories by Chris today. He didn't even have time to go over it, but God is moving. He loves what they're doing there. And so you need to jump in to what God's doing through ZoeCare. Thank you guys so much. Don't leave yet, because just fill out your cards. There's pens on the table, everything that you need. We're going to play a song, and then we're going to close in prayer in just a couple minutes. Thank you guys.
He is jealous for me. Love's like a hurricane. I am a tree bending beneath the weight of his wind and mercy. And all of a sudden I'm unaware of these afflictions eclipsed by glory. Just how beautiful you are, and how great your affections are for me. Know how he loves us, oh how he loves us, how he loves us all. Jealous for me. Love's like a hurricane. I am a tree bending beneath the weight of his wind and mercy. When all of a sudden I am unaware of these afflictions eclipsed by glory, and I realize just how beautiful you are and how great your affections are for me. Oh, how he loves, yeah, he loves us. Oh, loves us all. Oh, how he loves us, how he loves us all.
Wow, how do you follow that? Thank you. Thank you so much. And Amy, thank you so much for your message and your story and your encouragement to us. A note or two I took, the church shouldn't be about behavior modification, it should be about heart transformation. Amen? Yeah, love is our secret weapon. We can't fix all the problems, but we can point them and introduce them to the one who can. Amen. So my job would not be complete here without just some closing reminders to you. First of all, again, if you won the auction, you need to go back to this table here with the balloons, and they'll accept your money, and they will find a way to get you the gift that you purchased. So thank you so much for that. Second of all, we've talked a lot about volunteering, and there was a number that was on the screen. Some of you are like, that number's gone. What was that? I'll give you that in a moment. So if you still have that pen in your hand, get yourself ready. But in the foyer, as you leave, we'll have our Zoe volunteers manning the table, and they're there to help you. Hey, I think maybe I would like to volunteer. Can I give you my name? Whatever, go to the table. They'll help you up with all of the above, okay? So that number, if you want to just text it, because the line might be long, maybe you got to get home, you can text your number to them. That's 406. That should be the easy part. Montana, one number, 406-282-0503. So 406-282-0503. That's particularly for the training to be a mentor for these young men and the young women, okay? So, by the way, thank you, Zoe volunteers. There's a whole handful of wonderful volunteers that are just giving their time in service. So we are so grateful for the Zoe volunteers behind the table as well. Second, you will notice on your table the books that Chris mentioned, written by our speaker, Amy Ford. If you are like me and you'd like to purchase one of those books, who wouldn't? Of course you do. They are just $5. These dollars go to her to cover her costs so that she can get those to you. So here's the deal. We need to separate, somehow distinguish the money that's going to Zoe and the money going to Amy. So table hosts, pay attention, this is for you. It's important to note on the outside of your donation envelope what portion came from the books, right? So people can write their checks to Zoe, yay, but then we want to add a $5 bill or a check for $5 or however you want to do that to cover the books. So, and then table hosts, if you would just mark on the outside of the table how much goes into the books, that will help us make sure Amy gets what she does to cover the cost for her books so that she can give more away at the next location. Okay, so table hosts, you are responsible for that. Thank you so much for doing that. I think then that's all I have for you tonight. It's time to close. What's that? We got it? We good? Okay. So once again, thank you for your partnership in bringing life to this valley. You'll note in your program, it lists Pastor Russ Michaels from Connect Church. He'll do our closing prayer, but unfortunately, Russ could not make it. So we are so grateful to have Pastor Pat Lanoy from Summit Church. I'm guessing that's Pat coming up here now. So Pat, thank you so much for last minute filling in. We appreciate you. You get the last word. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
God bless you.
Anytime a lead pastor bows out, you always get the youth pastor, so that's what you're stuck with tonight. So let's pray. Lord, thank you for this wonderful evening tonight. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for ZoeCare. Thank you for all the people that make up ZoeCare, the volunteers, the staff, the board, everyone who gives. All of us in here are part of ZoeCare tonight. And so thank you for the burden that you've placed on our hearts, the love that you've placed in so many hearts tonight. Help us to show that love. Help us to show the love to these young women who are scared and alone, feeling pressure. To these ladies that just don't know what else to do. Help us to support them, to love them through what they're facing. And help us to bring down the abortion numbers going on inside of the church. To let young ladies know before they're pregnant that we will be there for them if they ever become pregnant. That they are loved. They don't need to feel shame or fear or guilt. They can feel loved and embraced. Thank you for the testimony. We heard about that tonight. Now help us to live it. To give of ourselves, whether it's finances, time, abilities, whatever the case may be. To give of ourselves to show your love, even if you have shown your love to all of us. May we love the world as you have loved us. Bless every person in here, and may we turn around and be blessings to all those that are out there. In Jesus' name, amen. And I guess with that, we're dismissed, so thank you.